You know, when I was in college, I was driving my truck. I had this little tiny truck. In fact, it was my father's truck, but he let me use it. Anyways, I was driving the truck, and then the engine light comes on. And I'm thinking, no big deal. I'm sure it's nothing. And so I just keep driving it. And maybe a week later, another light comes on. It's the oil light. And I'm thinking, probably nothing. I just keep driving it. And then one day I'm driving down the road, and I hear this god-awful sound. And the truck just comes to a halt. It had run out of oil. And anyways, I called my father. He was not impressed. But I bring that story up because sometimes there's these little warnings that there is a deeper problem beneath and you have to tend to it. And the same thing can happen with our work teams. And so in this short video, I'm going to talk to you about 5 subtle red flags that may point to a problem. Now, it may not, but it may point to a problem, and you definitely want to pay attention to it if you see these. Okay, so let's go ahead and dive into these. Number one, red flag number one is meetings that are silent, right? So if you have a silent meeting like if you have a team meeting and there's more awkward silences than there is lively discussion, that's a potential red flag. You can't just chalk that up for, well, we're just all a bunch of introverts. That doesn't cut it. Because when there's a lack of participation, that can mean that your team members don't feel safe speaking up, sharing their ideas, sharing their concerns, feeling like their opinions, their points are valid. And part of psychological safety for teams is when people feel safe to speak up, safe to contribute, or even to offer counterpoints or to push back on something. So if you never hear any of that, that's a potential red flag. Number 2, increased absenteeism. So if you begin to see a sudden spike in 6 days or vacation requests, and I'm talking like outside of summer and outside of like Thanksgiving or Christmas time, but if you just start seeing more people calling in sick, missing work, this might be more than a coincidence. Because when the team members don't feel engaged or valued, and when they don't have that synergy, they are more likely to take time off. After all, a day at the beach is much easier than dealing with a coworker that is a pain in the neck. All right, number three red flag, avoidance of responsibility. So one thing you want to do as a leader is you always want to notice if people are trying to pass the buck or if they're hesitating to take on something new. Now, okay, legitimately they might be busy, but this avoidance can indicate a fear of failing or a lack of confidence in their roles, but it can also point to a lack of psychological safety again on your team. And listen, failure is never fun for anyone, and failure should be treated as an educational opportunity for the team in a positive way. And it's so important that we make sure we have a growth mindset culture in our team so that people will take ownership and they will not avoid responsibility. Number 4 red flag, if there's a lack of social interaction. So this is one of those things you notice outside the meeting. Well, actually, even you notice at the beginning of the meeting. If you come into the meeting and everyone's already there and they've been waiting for you for 5 minutes and it's just dead quiet, that's a potential red flag because it's like they're not interacting with each other. Or maybe they skip out on lunch together, or after work gatherings, they never come. And it's not even really like they have a great reason. Because reduced social interaction can be a sign that your team isn't bonding, right? Or they're not building those essential relationships. Now, listen, teams don't need to be friends. That's clear. I don't know why Gallup has the thing on their Q12 about do I have a best friend at work? I think that's the one question that doesn't belong there, because I can't even make someone be my friend. How can I make 2 people on my team be friends, right? But so teams don't need to be friends. But if you notice that people are avoiding each other, and when there seems to be no connection, then that's a potential red flag for connection. Number 5, the last one, is minimal feedback, right? So if feedback is rare, or if it's negative a lot, then it's a sign that something is amiss, right? Because here's the thing, healthy teams, they regularly exchange constructive feedback, they help each other grow, they help each other improve, and that's why we want to make sure that there's a healthy dose of feedback. Now listen, all of these signs are tiny, right? They're a little bit like the engine light, the oil light that came on in my truck back when I was 20, and I wrecked the truck. But one of the things we have to do as leaders is we have to pay attention, right? We pay attention so that we can act with intention. And the team is a different animal than the individual employee. You know, as a leader, you have to be able to lead the individual, but then you have to lead the group of individuals, which comes together as a team. And like I said, it's a different animal. And so it's more complicated. There's more problems that can come up, but there's also more potential for amazing things to happen. So watch out for those 5 signs. And if you ever see any of them, then you know, maybe I need to look into this a little bit further.